Hey y'all, welcome back to Tobacco Leaf Legacies. This is Cheryl. Decided to visit a nearby park for this particular video. We are going to talk about New Year's resolutions. Have y'all made yours? I think I have said in other videos that I don't really do resolutions. I like to sit down and think about the last year, think about the things that I want to do, that I want to accomplish, and kind of work on that. So I thought, it's the beginning of the year. Let's go to a really pretty park here and talk about resolutions. Okay, first let's talk about the history, because there is a history, and this is actually very interesting. This is something that I did not know until I started reading and researching for the video here. Okay, in 2000 BC, yes y'all, it goes back that far. In 2000 BC, the Babylonians celebrated their new year, and it was during a 12-day festival called Akitu, assuming I'm saying that correctly. And what's interesting about that is that it started with the vernal equinox, which, if you know, that's actually the beginning of spring. So their new year started in spring. Resolutions were very common back then, and in fact one of the most common resolutions that apparently that we have record of is that the common one was to return borrowed farm equipment. I thought that was kind of interesting, which, you know, in a society that was probably very communal and, you know, very, I say farm-based. I don't know if farm is exactly the right word, but in that kind of community, that makes a lot of sense. All right, later, of course, the Romans adapted the celebration. And, you know, this kind of goes back to, if you watched the Christmas video that I just posted, there are a lot of celebrations and things that are handed down from culture to culture. And as time goes on, these things change and these things adapt. Most of our Christmas holidays and traditions and things that we have go back to pagan holidays and other holidays that were celebrated, and it's just been changed around. So anyway, so later on, the Romans adapted the celebration as well, but the timing shifted to align with the Julian calendar in 46 BC, and that is where our January 1st New Year comes from. January, in case nobody knew this, I didn't know this, January got its name from the two-faced Roman god Janus, who looks forward to new beginnings as well as backward for reflection and resolution. I thought, oh, well, that's aptly named for January, isn't it? The Romans made promises of good behavior for the year ahead. New Year's resolutions even continued into the Middle Ages. So this is not something that we've just made up in the last, 100, 200 years. The idea of a resolution and doing something different and, reevaluating what's going on, that has been around for a very long time. The first recorded use of the phrase New Year's resolution was in a Boston newspaper in 1813. Now, of course, there is even more to the history. That's just kind of the basics of it. You can look into it. But I just thought it was kind of cool. I didn't know that such a thing actually went back to the Babylonians. I mean, I figured it had been around for a while, but I thought, well, maybe just the last 400 or 500 years or so, like that. So I learned something new. Now you've learned something new. Okay. And with this video, I think I want to encourage you to stop making the typical kind of resolution and change to making a reevaluation. I think for me, and I think in general, that's kind of a better terminology. First, let's look at the definitions. A resolution is a firm decision to do or not do something. Simple. Reevaluation is the action of assessing or evaluating something again or differently. And I guess that's why I say I realize they're kind of the same, right? Maybe, flip sides of the same coin. But with the reevaluation, I feel like it's a little different, especially with the action part. You can make a decision all you want to, but if you never make a plan and if you never sit down and devise this plan and put it in action, the decision means nothing. So resolution is fine. I can sit here and I can say, okay, I want to work out 5 days a week. Okay, that's fine. I can make that decision, I can make that resolution, but without putting something into action, nothing's going to happen. So I feel like the action part of that is very important. And so that is my first tip. Stop making the typical resolution and start making a reevaluation in your life. Because when you look at it from a decision action standpoint, you are going to get more out of the reevaluation than you are just making a decision. The next tip, tip number 2, we need to work with our natural cycles. Nature has got natural cycles. We have got natural cycles. And I think sometimes, January, of course, it's always winter. Well, for some of us, it's not winter. Nonetheless, for us, it's winter. And that is the time to slow down and rest and conserve energy. It's not the time to hit the ground running. And I think sometimes that might be a cause to some people not being as successful as they would like to be with their resolutions. This is not the time to hit the ground running. This is not the time to go out and see how hard and fast and whatever that you can do things. The natural cycle in winter, whenever your winter is to rest and to slow down and to conserve. Trees, for instance, they lose their leaves in the fall, anticipating winter. They enter a resting phase that protects their cells, their root systems, and their seeds. Most plants become dormant in winter, and many animals slow their activity and/or hibernate. Humans are not immune to this either. We can become more insulin resistant, and the reason why is it helps us become more fuel efficient. Our circadian rhythm changes with the shorter winter days and the longer nights. We also tend to gain weight because the body is storing fuel for an anticipated lack of food until the spring. Now, understand, with the way that we have our grocery stores and things now, it's not like it was in hunter-gatherer, days, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess depending on how you look at it, we do still have these systems in our body and they do still act the same way. We don't go into the typical winter like our way back ancestors, used to have. We don't have to store the way that we had to then because we have food, all the time. But that doesn't mean our body is still not on that cycle. And the easiest thing to do is to learn these cycles and to work with them. Don't work against them. If you've ever tried to go against the grain, so to speak, whether it's, you're in a big crowd of people and everybody's going the same way and you're trying to go a different direction, that's kind of hard. If you are, out swimming and you're in the ocean and you're not working with the currents, it's harder, right? It's more work. And so you learn the cycles and you learn to work with them. So in this rest mode, instead of hitting, January 1st, like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to start cleaning the house like a mad person, I'm going to, start cooking every meal, whatever it is that you want. Instead of doing that, it's a better idea, again, working with these cycles, to sit down, make your reevaluations, make a plan for implementation. Don't just jump into the deep end here. Sit down, figure out what it is that you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and then you want to come up with a schedule that is going to work for you. If that's January where you sit down, if you feel like you want to start implementing some stuff in January, that's fine. Maybe you want to wait till April. April is spring. April is when the cycles and things start to change. And maybe that is the better time to start implementing things that require a bit more energy, or maybe to get a bit more gung-ho about them. Sometimes, let's take working out, for example. You want to work out 5 days a week. Well, if you haven't been working out at all, jumping into 5 days a week is probably not going to be successful. But if you sit down and you say, okay, well, what if I will do, 2 days a week. That's going to be a whole lot easier to maintain. It's going to be a whole lot easier to be successful with doing 2 days a week. And then the next month, okay, increase it to 3 days a week. Sit down, make your plan, and really figure out a schedule that is going to work with you and with using your already, natural cycles with you and with nature and with everything that is happening around you. All right, so tip number 3, and I kind of just mentioned this, don't try to implement everything at once because you are going to set yourself up for failure. You want to set yourself up for success, and I know people probably get tired of hearing that in, corporate and stuff like that, but it's true. It's really true. You do want to set yourself up for success. Don't try to do everything at once. And maybe you've got 5 things that you want to work on for this year. Don't start all of them at the same time. Roll one out in January if you feel like it. Roll one out in February, and just ease into it very slowly. Doing too much it's going to overwhelm you, and when you get overwhelmed, it's going to be hard to stick with it. You want to stick with it. You want these things to happen. So it's a lot easier. Write it down, commit to it. That's kind of a tip within a tip. Just don't think about what you want to do. Really sit down, write it down, and commit to it. Even print out calendar pages if that helps. You can either just write it down normal, print out calendar pages, and put your goals on them. Find a system that works for you, that will keep you accountable and will help you be successful with this. Okay, tip number 4. I don't know if you can call this a tip, but I'm going to call it a tip. When you veer off course, and you will veer off course with this, you might as well plan for it. You need to go easy on yourself. You need to go into it understanding that there are things that happen in life that are unexpected. You'll be going along fine on your plan, on your schedule, and there's always something that comes up, whether it's you catching a cold, you being sick, whether your kid is sick, I don't know. There's 100 different things that could happen that is going to disrupt the schedule that you've now created. And I think you need to go into it assuming and expecting that that's going to happen, because that's life and that's reality. So when you stop being able to stay on your schedule like you were, don't feel bad about it. Don't judge yourself, and don't start saying, oh, well, see, I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't stick with it, and I might as well forget about it. Understand these things are going to happen. And when whatever it is that has settled in your life, just go back to your calendar. Just go right back to your calendar, to your plan, and go, okay, where did I stop? And you just start again. And that's the beauty about every single day that we have. You can start again. You don't have to wait for the new year. So the 5th tip is to know your limits and work within them. All of us have limitations, whether it is physically, whether it is because of our scheduling, whether it is because of our job, and whatever the reason is, we all have limits. So just know what they are and figure out how to navigate within them. Starting out with smaller goals will give you more to build on. Again, kind of like I was saying a minute ago, don't jump into the deep end. You want to start small and then work up to more. It's kind of like with working out. You can't just start lifting the really heavy weights, right? You've got to start with lower weight, and you've got to do that for a while, and you have to slowly build up to the heavier weights as you build muscle. It's the same thing with making resolutions or reevaluations, whatever you want to call them at this point. You need to start small, you need to kind of build up that muscle, and then continue to add to it. It's just about being realistic with yourself, with your timetable, expectations, limitations, and all of that. A little bonus tip here to go along with the 5. Don't be afraid to get help. Plain and simple. Whether it's a personal trainer, whether it's a cooking class, whether it's a friend to hold you accountable, whether it's a blog or vlog online, there are just numerous resources like this for you to pull from. In fact, whatever is on your list of resolutions, reevaluations this year, I encourage you to go onto whatever your social media platform is, okay, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, whatever it is, and search for pages that have to do with this. You want to lose weight? Fine. There are a zillion pages about losing weight, or you want to work out more. Okay, there are tons of sites and pages and things, accounts, whatever you want to call them, about working out, cooking. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I always find that with me, that really helps to follow accounts that are going to help you be able to reach your goal. Okay, and the last bonus tip, and this doesn't exactly have to do with the resolutions per se, but it is protect your mental and your emotional peace. And I know you're probably asking, okay, Cheryl, what exactly does that mean? It means that you guard your time, your energy, your responses, your reactions to others. I don't mean that you need to be hateful. I don't mean that you need to ignore people or hurt people or anything like that. But what it means is you are guarding yourself. There are too many people in this world that take without ever really giving. There are some people that they just like to take from certain people. I don't know, whether because they've known them for a long time, they're just used to how somebody is. Oh, somebody will understand, he or she, they'll just be fine with it, whatever. It's this taking advantage of, kind of thing that goes on. Sometimes people mean it maliciously. I think most of the time they don't. But there is a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on. And there are too many people that are giving, and they are extremely giving, and the problem is they end up hurt because you read this stuff all the time about, oh, you need to be kind, you need to be this, you need to be that, and whatever. Well, you know what, but you need to guard yourself too. You cannot continually put out and put out and put out without getting your cup refilled as well. And so unfortunately, it reaches a point where you do have to kind of stop and go, wait a minute. I don't like the situation. I'm not feeling good about this. Maybe I'm starting to feel a little resentment towards people. You need to stop. If you're feeling that way, there's a reason why. Depending on your situation, maybe you can go to the person and go, hey, I'm feeling this way. And I know you probably don't mean to make me feel this way, but here it is. Or there are some situations where talking to people just doesn't work. For whatever reason, they just don't understand. They don't want to listen. They don't want to make changes in their own life. Whatever that is, sometimes you have to stop and go, you know what? I'm going to take control of this then. And if I feel like I am being taken advantage of a little bit, or just whatever your situation is, change your behavior, because you have to protect your mental and emotional peace. If you don't protect yours, you're not ever going to be able to be there for your loved ones, for your children, for your spouse, for your family, your friends that are not making you feel this way, or whoever the people are that are in your life. You have to do that. You have to protect your mental and your emotional peace. And I'll tell you a little secret about some of these people too, is that sadly, most of these people, the problem is with themselves. It's not with you. So often, people feel like, well, what did I do? And how come they're treating me this way or whatever? And the thing is, it's not you. Again, it's them. They have issues in their own life, whether they're working on it, whether they're not, who knows. But I think sometimes just understanding that, recognizing that, and then making sure that ultimately you're taking care of yourself is going to help you in the long run. You want to be successful in everything you do. And, let's face it, life is really hard. Life is really hard. And with our technology and some things being easier, some other things aren't easier. And we do have a lot of struggles. So anything that you can do to take care of yourself, you need to do. All right, so that's it for this video. I just wanted to talk about the New Year's resolutions and reevaluations a little bit, and hopefully encourage you and give you a little inspiration going forward. Maybe you've already made some. Maybe this will help you sit down and really focus on those goals and put them into a plan that will be successful. As always, time is precious. Carpe diem, seize the day. I'll see you next time.